Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise and get straight to the insights that matter for you. So many of us have had that light bulb moment, right? A really compelling startup idea. But then comes that big question, how do you actually build it, especially without burning through all your cash? Today, we're getting into the weeds on the true cost of building a minimum viable product, or MVP. Our mission here is to pull out the most crucial bits from our sources, basically giving you a shortcut to understanding this vital first step, helping you plan smart without, breaking the bank.
And that's exactly why this is so important. You should think of an MVP less like just a technical thing and more like a strategic bridge. Yeah, exactly. It connects that big initial vision you have with something concrete, something real world. For any founder, any innovator, it's really about efficiently checking if your core concept works. It helps attract those crucial early investors and gets your first enthusiastic users engaged. This info is really critical for your success, whether you're actually founding something, investing, or maybe you're just curious about how innovation really happens.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that a bit because it feels like a common trap. A lot of ambitious startups, they have these grand visions and they try to build the whole thing, all the features, right from day one. They want it perfect.
Right, perfectionism.
But what's the real danger there? What's the cost of skipping that MVP step? How does it act as a safety net, especially when, let's face it, resources are always tight?
That's the core question, absolutely. And honestly, the danger of skipping it, many founders learn that the really hard way. We've seen, countless startups just run out of money. Yeah, because they spend big upfront on the full product, only to find out way too late that the market, it doesn't even want what they built. The MVP is basically your startup's insurance policy against wasted time and money. Simple as that. It helps you in a few key ways. First, you get to actually validate your core idea with real users before you sink heavy investment in.
Real feedback, not just guesswork.
Exactly. Second, it helps you attract investors. How? By showing traction.
Traction meaning like actual users, signups.
Precisely. Quantifiable proof of demand, not just a theory on a slide deck. It's much more powerful. Third, it saves those precious resources, time, money, effort, by forcing you to focus only on the features that really matter most.
The absolute must-have.
Must-haves, and finally it gets you to market much, much faster, and that speed can be a huge competitive edge.
So it's less about being bare bones and more about being strategic.
Yeah.
A focused first step to lower the risk.
Exactly right. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, the MVP is really the heart of the lean startup methodology, that systematic way to quickly develop products by focusing on learning what works. Validated learning. It is not about launching some cheap version. It's about a functional version that truly captures the core value you're offering.
Okay.
Think about it like this. Is it smarter to spend, say, $50,000 on an MVP that users actually love and use? Or $300,000 on a full product that, bombs?
Yeah, no contest there.
It fundamentally de-risks the investment because you have that real-world proof. And the time-to-market difference is huge. We're often talking 3 to 4 months for an MVP versus maybe 12 months or even more for a full product.
Wow, that's significant.
It is. So the key founder insight here isn't just seeing the MVP as an experiment. It's realizing that its real power. It lies in strategically failing fast and cheaply.
Failing fast.
Okay. Yeah, by learning the priority over some perfectly polished launch, you're not just saving cash, you're actively de-risking the whole venture by embracing those inevitable early mistakes, learning from them quickly.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. Less like a stripped-down product, more like a focused learning machine. Okay, let's get practical then. If an MVP's cost can swing so wildly, you hear numbers like $20,000, but then also $100,000. What specific choices drive that? What are the key factors you really need to understand when you're planning your own MVP budget?
Right, and it's fascinating how directly your decisions impact that bottom line. Let's break down those critical factors for you. First, and this is probably the biggest one, scope of features.
Scope, meaning what it actually does.
Exactly. You have to ask yourself really clearly, what is the one main problem my MVP absolutely must solve for my users? So for example, our ride-hailing app MVP. Fundamentally, it needs GPS tracking, a way to book, and a way to pay. That's it.
Core functions.
Core functions. Or a marketplace MVP. It needs user profiles, the ability to list items, and some kind of transaction system. Anything else at this stage, it's a distraction, and it adds cost.
So even something that seems useful, like maybe an internal chat system in that marketplace, if it's not essential for that core problem, it could bloat the cost.
Precisely. Every single extra feature adds development time, it adds complexity, and therefore it adds cost. Fewer features just mean lower cost. It's pretty straightforward. Next up is the design approach.
Okay, how it looks and feels, UI, UX.
Exactly. User friendliness is crucial for people to actually use it right. But the level of design polish directly impacts your budget. Basic wireframes or simple functional prototypes, much cheaper than super high fidelity UI UX with, slick animations and transitions. The trick is finding that balance. It needs to be clear and usable, absolutely, but you don't need to overinvest in the fancy stuff right at the start.
Get the basics right first.
Get the basics right. Then there's the technology stack choice. This affects both the initial build cost and how easy it is to scale later. For instance, using cross-platform frameworks, things like React Native or Flutter, lets your developers build for both iOS and Android from one codebase.
Ah, so you don't need two separate teams or projects.
Correct. That can often save money compared to building completely separate native apps. Also, your choice of back-end tech, Node.js, Django, whatever, and your hosting infrastructure, they all play a big role too. A good development partner should really guide you here, helping you balance future needs with your current budget constraints.
Finding that right partner seems key.
It is. And that brings us to team composition and location. This is another huge variable. Hourly rates differ dramatically across the globe. You might see $120 to $200 an hour for agencies in the US or UK. Compare that to, say, $40 to $80 an hour in Eastern Europe, or even $25 to $50 an hour in parts of Asia, like India or Vietnam.
That's a massive difference. Tempting to just go for the cheapest.
It can be tempting, but be careful. While offshore can seem cheaper on paper, the real win for you is finding a partner with proven MVP experience. Someone who genuinely understands startups, knows how to cut scope smartly, how to prioritize ruthlessly. That experience is often worth more than the lowest hourly rate.
Good point. Experience over just cheapness.
Definitely. And finally, there's timeline pressure. If you absolutely need that MVP launched in, say, 2 months instead of the more typical 5,
You'll pay extra.
you'll pay a premium, yes. Expedited timelines usually mean bringing in more developers or paying for overtime, and that directly bumps up the cost.
Okay, that's a really clear breakdown of the levers you can pull or that pull in your wallet. So what does this all actually translate to in terms of budget? Let's talk some realistic numbers you wouldn't expect. And then the really crucial part. How can you save money smartly without gutting the quality of your MVP?
Absolutely. This is where strategy really pays off. Once you grasp those cost drivers, you can start making smart choices. So first, let's paint a realistic picture of MVP costs, maybe based on what we're seeing around 2025 from our sources. For a simple MVP, we're talking maybe 1 or 2 core features, probably just for one platform, like web or mobile. You're typically looking in the range of $15,000 to $30,000, and that might take about 2 to 3 months to build. Think like a basic task management app or a simple proof of concept.
Okay, 15 to 30,000.
Then stepping up to medium complexity. This might involve, say, 3 to 5 features, maybe both a mobile app and a web interface, some integrations with other services. Here, the range is generally more like $30,000 to $60,000, and you're probably looking at 3 to 5 months of development. An example could be a simple app for maybe a home caregiver to clock in and out using a QR code on their phone.
Got it. 30 to 60K.
And then you have high-complexity MVPs. These involve things like multiple user roles, like admins, users, managers, significant third-party integrations, payment systems, complex dashboards. For these, costs can easily be $60,000 to $120,000, sometimes even more, and development could take 4 to 8 months, maybe longer. Think about a complex SaaS product, a two-sided marketplace, or maybe an application that needs secure healthcare integrations.
60 to over 120. Those are significant ranges. Is there a sort of pro insight from the sources on navigating that complexity? Where should people aim?
Yeah, there is, and it's actually a bit counterintuitive. While many founders naturally aim for that medium complexity level, our sources consistently show that the most successful startups, they often launch MVPs that feel almost, well, embarrassingly simple to the founders.
Really? Simpler is better.
Often, yes, for the initial validation. The insight is that the sweet spot for getting that crucial early validation is usually far simpler than your ambition might be telling you. It maximizes what you learn for every dollar you spend.
It may make sense. Learn more with less risk.
Exactly. Okay, so now let's talk cost-saving strategies. And remember, this is about being smart, not just cheap. It's not about cutting essential corners. First, and we touched on this, prioritize the core value only. Hammer this home. Your MVP needs to do one thing, but do it exceptionally well. Ask yourself relentlessly, if my MVP could only solve one problem for my user, which one must it be? The classic example everyone uses is Airbnb, their first MVP. It basically just let hosts list a space and guests book it. That was it.
No fancy maps, no instant messaging, none of that.
None of it initially. All that stuff, the in-app chat, wish lists, advanced filters, it all came much, much later, based on user need and traction. By having that laser focus, they dramatically cut initial development hours and cost.
It really is about discipline, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how many good ideas just get crushed under the weight of too many features too soon.
Absolutely. Happens all the time. Second strategy, start with prototypes before full development. Use tools like Figma, InVision, Adobe XD, there are plenty of them. They let you build clickable mock-ups. You can test user flows, see how people react, validate your assumptions, all without writing a single line of code.
And that saves money how?
Because making changes to a prototype costs maybe hundreds or a few $1,000s. Making changes to coded software after users hate the layout, that can cost tens of thousands in redesigns and recoding. Test cheap first.
Smart. Test the blueprint before building the house.
Precisely. Third, leverage open source and SaaS tools. Don't reinvent the wheel. Instead of building everything from scratch, integrate existing proven solutions. Use Stripe or PayPal for payments. Use Firebase authentication or Auth for secure user logins. Use services like AWS Amplify, Firebase, or Heroku for your backend and hosting, basically, where your app lives online. This massively cuts down initial development time and also reduces ongoing maintenance headaches and costs.
So it's less about being a master builder of everything and more like being a smart architect, integrating the best existing components. That sounds like a huge lever.
It's a massive lever, huge time and cost saver. Fourth strategy, choose the right development partner. We talked about cost, but again, be wary of just the absolute cheapest freelancers. Often there are hidden risks, poor code quality, communication issues, missed deadlines. But on the flip side, huge agencies might over-engineer your simple MVP because that's what they're used to. What you really need is a partner, or maybe a smaller agency or consultancy, that specializes in MVPs for startups. They understand the lean approach, they help you prioritize brutally, they focus on speed and cost control, they get the startup mindset.
Finding that specialized fit is key.
Crucial. Fifth, adopt an agile development approach. Break the work down into short cycles, usually 2 or 3 weeks. We call them sprints. After each sprint, you test what was built, you get feedback, you discuss, and then you adjust the plan for the next sprint. This iterative loop prevents you from spending months building something in the wrong direction. It ensures every dollar is adding tangible, tested value.
Constant course correction.
Exactly. And finally, number 6, validate before scaling. This trips up a lot of founders too. Don't spend a fortune building infrastructure designed to handle millions of users before you've even proven that your first 500 users want your product. Build for the scale you have or anticipate in the near term. The rule is crystal clear. Validate demand first, then worry about scaling.
That's incredibly practical advice for getting that initial MVP built smartly. But like you said, launch isn't the finish line. What happens next? It feels like a dangerous myth that the budgeting just stops once the MVP is live. That's really just the start of another phase, right? What are those often forgotten costs, those crucial opportunities that you need to be planning for after the launch?
You're absolutely right. Launch is just shifting gears. Thinking long-term from day one is essential for survival and success. First, you absolutely must plan for post-launch iterations. Your MVP isn't set in stone. It's designed to be a learning tool, a data-gathering machine. Once real users start interacting with it, you will get feedback, you will find bugs, you will see ways to improve it. So you need budget set aside specifically for those tweaks, bug fixes, and small feature enhancements based on that early user data. A good rule of thumb, reserve maybe 20% to 30% of your initial MVP development budget just for this post-launch refinement phase.
Okay, so it's not just build and done. It's build, listen, adapt, build some more. Requires dedicated funds.
Precisely. Second, and this is so often overlooked, allocate for marketing and user acquisition. This is critical. You could build the most amazing MVP ever, but if nobody knows about it, if nobody uses it, you get zero validation, zero learners.
Right, the build it and they will come fallacy.
Exactly. Founders sometimes pour every penny into development and forget they need users. You should realistically plan to allocate at least 15% to 25% of your overall budget towards getting those first users. That could be digital ads, maybe Google, Meta, LinkedIn, depending on who you're targeting. It could be content marketing, some basic SEO, maybe partnerships. The point is, you need a budget to attract those vital early adopters. An MVP is only validated when people actually use it and give you feedback.
Makes total sense. No users, no validation.
Third, don't forget the ongoing maintenance and hosting costs. Every piece of software has running costs. You've got server hosting paying providers like AWS, Google Cloud, Azure for the infrastructure. You've got domain name fees. You might have subscriptions for third-party services or APIs you integrated. And crucially, ongoing security updates and patches. These can add up. For a relatively small MVP, you might expect somewhere between $500 to $2,000 per month just to keep the lights on, depending on usage and complexity.
Okay, so factor in those recurring operational costs.
Definitely. Fourth, think ahead and budget for scale when ready. If your MVP takes off, which is the goal, that's fantastic. But growth brings new costs. You'll eventually need to invest in scaling up your backend systems to handle more users, maybe add more integrations, perhaps expand to other platforms like building an iOS app if you only started with Android or vice versa. And you'll likely need to grow your team more developers, maybe customer support folks. Thinking about this future scaling influences your initial tech choices and is really important for conversations with potential investors. It shows you have a roadmap.
Planning for success, essentially.
Planning for success. Fifth, and this is just prudent financial planning, always set a contingency buffer. Unexpected things always happen in software development. Always. Maybe an integration turns out way more complex than anticipated. Maybe you uncover a major security vulnerability that needs immediate fixing. Maybe user feedback forces a significant design rethink. Surprises are the norm. Smart founders build in a buffer, typically 10 to 15% of their total budget, as contingency funding. It prevents you from running out of cash right when you hit an unexpected snag.
A safety cushion for the inevitable bumps.
Exactly. And finally, perhaps the most important mindset shift. Think of your MVP as a learning investment, not just an expense. Instead of obsessing purely over minimizing the initial spend, reframe your budgeting around the return on investment in terms of learning. Every single dollar you spend on the MVP should be aimed at generating valuable insights about your customers, about which features they truly value, but whether your core idea has legs in the real market. The whole point of the MVP approach is to get these critical learnings faster and way more affordably than traditional slow market research methods. That's a great perspective. It's buying knowledge, not just code. Okay, wow. We have covered a huge amount of ground today, from really understanding why an MVP is your strategic starting point, to the nitty-gritty details of budgeting for it, the cost drivers, the saving strategies, and crucially, what comes next, planning beyond that initial launch. I think the key takeaway for me is that smart budgeting isn't about randomly cutting costs. It's about strategically cutting waste. And that planning effectively means looking way beyond just the initial build phase. It's development, launch, and that continuous cycle of iteration and growth.
Exactly right. And if there's one overarching message to leave everyone with, it's this. The cost of building an MVP isn't truly about how much you spend. It's about where you spend it and why. So the challenge for you as you move forward with your idea is to constantly ask, how will you ensure every single dollar you invest in your MVP generates the absolute most valuable learning? How will it strategically set you up for long-term market success, rather than just getting something launched that's, well, good enough for now? That's the real question to wrestle with.